All right, so when I set out to make a movie, basically there's two objectives that I'm trying to hit. For one, make a finished movie and upload it to. Number two, try and stretch my budget from $25,000 to $250,000. That's the biggest goal because distribution wants a higher budget, watchers want a higher budget, everybody wants a higher budget. The hardest thing for me is to how do I make that 25K budget 250 to $1 million. There's only certain things we could do basically with audio and visual. Once you have that stuff ready to basically pass QC, can't really do much more than that, especially on our budget. But we found a couple ways to increase that budget or make it seem bigger than it really is. A lot of it is through special effects, through wardrobe, through small little details, and basically what we're going to talk about today, which is props. So I've brought on Howard Hawkins, and we're basically going to discuss a little bit today how he works with independent filmmakers to make these awesome props that give that value of $25,000 to $1 million on your budget. And this is one thing that I really, really want to stress to all you filmmakers out there. The investment that you make in these props makes these movies so much better. We'll highlight the one we just recently did, The Devil's Hostage, and the props that he made for us that I think took that budget and really kind of stretched it. The props he made were something that would be on a Hollywood set, and it gave us that, that edge over the other indies or other movies in that genre. So, Howard, it's a pleasure to have you on board. Howard's been with us for a long time. So, Howard, why don't you talk about how you found DBS and basically your first experience working with us?
Well, thank you, Brendan. It's a pleasure being here. But how I met DBS, it's been a couple years, and just by fluke, I was watching over my kids on TikTok, and that's how I ran across you guys. I started seeing your behind the scenes. Matter of fact, I think it was the girl in Cabin 13. I watched it, loved it, got back on TikTok, commented, and we've been friends since then. Then, what was it? 6 months, a year later, I actually ended up on set with you.
Yeah, so Howard was obviously, if you've seen our TikTok, we do a lot of behind the scenes stuff and we do a lot of engagement with our fans. At this time, we were casting roles for our movies, and Howard was one of the lucky people who auditioned and got the part of Officer Hawk in Force of Death. And this was when we were just first starting to work with, our fans. And I really didn't know how it would go out or how it would work out. But it honestly was a blessing in disguise because it kind of, brought Howard in and got him used to our crew and our cast. So Howard, why don't you talk a little bit about Force of Death and when you first got on there? I think this was Dylan's second or third movie. Um, so we were just kind of we were ramping things up. So why don't you talk a little bit about Force of Death and your role as Officer Hawk?
Force of Death. That's the first film I did with DBS, my second film ever. And as I was coming to your location, I had to keep reminding myself, don't turn around, don't turn around. My nerves were skyrocketing. You guys were new to me. I didn't know what to expect. I've been with a director that was I wouldn't say pushy, but he was definitely a higher budget type of director, and I just didn't know how I would react if you were that way. I show up on set. Everybody's friendly as can be, easy pace. You're fast paced, but you're still an easy pace. The script wasn't too bad. I'm not a found footage fan, so luckily this one was a cinematic, so I had trouble remembering my lines through the whole thing. So luckily you did great at editing all together. But I met Dylan the first time there. Great guy. I love Dylan. Who else was there? Chloe, your brother. I forget everybody that was there, but just being behind the scenes, watching everybody else do their thing, just gave me motivation. I just wanted to keep going from there. And if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah, you'll see, Force of Death was one of our bigger movies, honestly. It was a little bit higher budget at the time, and we needed someone to play the police officer who basically kind of Dylan calls 911, he's frantic, and you're kind of pushing them saying, you know, "Are they on drugs? What they're saying doesn't make any sense because he's trying to explain basically what a shapeshifter is. And in real life, if you're trying to explain a shapeshifter, to a police officer, it's gonna, you know, be a little bit more difficult. Force of Death was my attempt at a campy kind of movie, so there was like a little bit of humor in there. But what I liked with Howard was, you know, we came on there, first time actor, first time I was working with him. Howard did a great job in pre-production, but it's still you have a lot of nerves. And this is, you know, basically what people don't understand is you have all these people watching you, you have all these lights on you, and you're expected to deliver this performance. There's a lot of pressure on them. I couldn't do this myself. I am a behind the camera guy, and I give all my respect to actors because it's so difficult. But what was cool with Howard is we had a lot of takes. You know, I wanted to kind of, you know, worst case scenario, I could piece together what he was going to say. I was like, just take it one sentence at a time. But once you kind of warmed up, Howard, and started improvising, and you know, I think Dylan was with you talking to you, so we
Yep.
had the scene in real time. The takes got really, really good all of a sudden. So why don't you talk about how you kind of improvise some of this stuff and kind of, you know, made your performance just a little bit more natural?
In the beginning, trying to get what you want from script, it was nerve wracking. After about 15, 20 minutes, you got me warmed up. I started feeling a little more comfortable. Then you kind of stepped away from the camera a little bit and said, what was it you said? You said something about, I'll just go ahead and play with it. And Dylan was sitting across from me. He was reading his line, and I just started going with it. Just random things, just totally off script, just go for it. And it gives a more of a natural feel when it's coming from you instead of trying to remember what you're reading. It was it was so much easier after you stepped away from that camera and I was like, "Oh, he's done recording." Well, no, he wasn't. You fooled me.
And I think that's, you know, a good way to operate with actors, especially new ones. I'm getting what I need to get the scene done. And honestly, Howard, I think we had like 3 hours of time, allotted to you, and he was done within like 45 minutes. So we're like, let's spend the next at least hour and a half, kind of messing around. And all the improvised takes were used in the movie. I don't think we used any of the stuff that, you know, we first started to work on, which is really cool. And there's a lot of actors that kind of work like that. I've kind of taken that style, but that was probably the first time that it really, really worked well. And a lot of people love the Officer Hawk character in that movie. So much so, we brought you back for Cold Grave. So, talk about Cold Grave and a little bit of a cameo in that one and being out there in those woods at night.
Oh, the woods. Uh, yeah, I could say quite a bit about the woods. Not necessarily for my scene, but part of it while we were out there, I I grew up in the woods. I hunted most of my life, so I listen when we're in the total dark, you're out in the middle of actual woods. Anything can happen. I started hearing things beside us why you and two of the actors and one other person went ahead, and it was just like me and three or four other people. Something right around us. Something kept stalking us. So y'all had the flashlights. I didn't have anything but a knife on me. But other than that, that was great. But for my scene, that was chaotic. Trying to run in boots in the sand. Yeah.
Yeah, we had so Howard had to come out of these bushes in a specific area. He had to run from all these trees and basically run all around and hit this one mark, and this was found footage. And I remember we had to do it a few times to get it done, but it did turn out really well. I really like that scene. It's the end of the movie. It's them kind of thinking that they're rescued. Watch Cold Grave. You'll see how it ends. But one thing with Howard that always kind of stuck with me is that he's always willing to help out. In Forced Death, when he wrapped, we're like, hey, you can go home. He's like, no, I'm going to stay. And he was holding lenses, moving lights for us. Cold Grave, I think you stood out there for a long time. I always remember you were out there with, like, we had all the zombies and all the other people out there you were hanging out with. But it just helps me out knowing that, like, Howard's got my back. And you have to wear a lot of hats on our sets. And obviously, the performance is what I need most from you. I want you to basically have the best performance that we could possibly get from you. Everything else is secondary, but Howard's always there. So you want to talk about basically how long you stayed on set and how you kind of got into these positions of doing all these little things for us?
Oh Lord. Um, let's see. The Cold Grave was actually, I think, the third movie I was with you. But the second one as Officer Hawk. But every time I wanted to know more behind the scenes. I wanted to help out because I seen how much Dylan was running around. I seen how much you were running around. And you're a skeleton crew. You don't have 20 people behind the scenes. You have your actors that actually help out. And I wanted to be a part of that. I love being behind the scenes. I love helping you. You need to light up a certain area. All right, I'll take the lights. I'll run them out there. I'll do whatever you need to do. But out of several of the companies I've worked for, done work for, I would say you're the best.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mean, it does help out a lot. And it kind of, the more time you spend with us, the more comfortable we were with you. And that kind of brings us to our next basic topic, which is the first time you dipped into prop work for us was Howard kind of became the guy that can fix problems. He's the DBS fixer. Basically, if I needed either something mechanical or I needed something that was a little bit tricky to get, I reached out to Howard. He did a lot of stuff for us. I don't know if you had any firearms. Oh no, we're totally missing Horror in the Forest. So let's go back. Let's go back real quick. Horror in the Forest. We needed you again to play the redneck. And this is the first time you had brought a firearm on set. So he kind of became our firearms prop master guy. Because I think, was that your shotgun that you used, or how did you secure that?
That was actually a friend of mine's. His name's David Austin. He lives right down the road from me. I no longer have a shotgun. My dad sold the shotgun out from underneath me. But you said you needed a shotgun. I've seen the shotguns you use, and I'm not trying to belittle you, but I wanted to see that get brought up. So I talked to my buddy David. He just happened to have a 16 gauge pump action that he started to disassemble. I asked him if I could borrow it without the firing pin. Absolutely. So I give credit to my buddy David. And matter of fact, we used that same shotgun twice. And each time, 0 firing pins. I've gone through with Dylan, the cast, you, show y'all, nothing's here, no ammo, no firing pin, no way it's gonna shoot.
Yeah, so that was probably the first time that he got firearms, and I do agree with him. Once again, we're trying to make these movies take our budget of $25,000 and make them $1 million. If you're walking around with, airsoft guns and shotguns, it's not gonna work too well. People notice that stuff, those details, especially hunters. If you're out in the woods, a lot of woodsmen watch our movies because they like the cryptid stuff.
Yep.
They'll get you immediately on this stuff. So I think that was the first time that Howard kind of started working as, basically the guy who gets us guns and firearms. But quickly, do you want to go over how you give us these guns and the safety? Because safety is our number one priority, especially with firearms on set. Howard always is making sure safety is number one. I'm making sure safety is number one. Me and Howard have extensive conversations on the safety of these guns. And then once we get on set, we have multiple meetings, and the guns are always kept in a safe, secure location. The actors use them for their scenes, and then they immediately give them back to us. And we have no live ammunition on set at all, period. We don't even have blanks. So there is no issues as far as safety. But if you are going to use guns, Howard, do you want to talk a little bit about, providing firearms to an indie set and making sure that they are as safe as possible?
The first thing I do is I write the serial number, everything down in case that firearm ever comes up missing. But I keep it locked in a case. And like I did with you guys, I talked to you, I talked to Dylan. We put Dylan in charge because I was not going to be on set. I put it in a case, sealed up, had signs all over it, DBS only, not a toy, legit thing. I broke the shotgun down, showed no shells in the chamber, none in the stock, none in the case. So I just wanted to make sure, because it's coming from me, I don't want to be held reliable for what somebody else does on set. So I had a contract signed that I was putting Dylan in charge. Once that weapon leaves my hands, the responsibility's on him. So I know for a fact, because I've seen him do it, he takes the shotgun as soon as he gets there. He goes through the whole thing I did with the cast. No ammo, no way to shoot it, just no toys. That's not a toy. Don't play with it. So, but I got it back. I got it back both times. Wonderful condition. I did have to polish it up a little bit, but other than that, no problem.
Yeah, I would say just make sure, if you're going to use firearms, you are doing the most safe things possible. We go over this stuff. They only use it for their scenes, and when I yell cut, the actors give the firearms back to Dylan. We keep them in a secure place. And once again, we don't use props, or we don't use bullets. We don't use squibs. We don't use blanks. There is no projectiles coming out of that gun. Howard takes out the firing pins in all the guns, because safety is our priority. We've had better luck with just VFXing the muzzle flashes. It's much safer, much easier. And I've had no complaints on realism with that. The muzzle flashes, if you get someone who knows what they're doing, are very, very good. I guarantee you no one can really tell the difference. And we'll kind of get there. We'll talk about when we get there as far as the projectile fake bullets, because that really adds another level of detail to what we're trying to do. But the next one really, Shadows of Bigfoot, was, I think, the first time that we really worked on props, and it kind of all came up. I don't know if we had talked to you about doing the guns in that one, but
No.
I had wanted a bear trap. There was a really cool scene in that movie where one of the lead characters steps on the bear trap, and I really wanted this to work. I thought it was gonna be really cool. It was gonna be really gritty. I talked to Tegan about special effects, and I was like, okay, well, we can just go and get a bear trap, and then take out the springs, or make it really safe. And that's how we were going to do it. I really didn't think it would be hard to get a bear trap. Well, it turns out they're illegal in Florida. And they're really hard to find, and they're basically collectibles now. So you can't get an old snapping bear trap. So I was like, oh no, like I think maybe we're a month away from shooting, and this was a big scene. I had spent a lot of money as far as special effects on this when we were working on it. And I reached out to Howard. I was like, hey Howard, can you get me a bear trap? And he's like, brother, I'll do you one better. I'll build you one. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be interesting, because they're pretty big and they're pretty wild looking. And I'll tell you what, Howard, you delivered. So talk about that, as that's probably our first experience, basically working together on props, and how we kind of came up with the bear trap idea. And My whole thing was it needed to have teeth on it because we needed to make it look like it goes into her leg, and it needed to be rusty, and it needed to be looked like it's in the woods. That was probably the only direction I gave Howard. After that, I was like, you know, set him free basically because I trust Howard. All the people that I hire, basically, I trust, and because if I don't trust you, why would I hire you? So I gave him a lot of creative freedom to do that, and so Howard, describe how you kinda built the bear trap and basically your experience with, working with us really for the first time on props.
First time at building something for you guys, I wanted to make sure I did it right. So me and you stayed in communication for, I think it was a good week. I was sending you photos of different bear traps. Uh, and you pointed out one that you really liked. So what I did was I was like, all right, I can do it. I went and got some rubber landscape siding, edging. And I just started thinking, okay, how can I get this to work? So I just took all thread rod, conduit, and just molded it into where I needed. Then I started cutting the teeth. So after I got the okay from you about how it looked, I started welding the chains, started adding the little miscellaneous stuff to make it look like it had actual springs, a pressure plate. Then I got a hold of Tegan and asked her, what do you need as the SFX artist? What is it you're trying to accomplish so that way I can make this trap easier on you and the actress? And she told me everything that she needed. So I made sure I handed her the tools that she needed because we're going to cut out some of the teeth, but I didn't want to cut out too much of it. So, and I still haven't got that back. I was going to hang that one on my wall, but Dylan has that one, I think.
Yeah, I think Dylan has it, because I don't think it's in the storage unit, so we should track that down because it's great.
Yeah.
So
He had it hung up in his house.
yeah, like, that's dumb. But, let's talk about because we did need it, so we had communicated Howard had built it perfectly. I had communicated with Tegan, who was doing the special effects. So the prop guy and the special effects person and myself were all in communication trying to get this done. The thing where we couldn't really figure out is how do you get it to look like he goes in her leg? So talk about how you kind of pulled that off and basically I think we had to shave off some of the spikes in there to make it look like it went in her leg.
Yeah, well, I wasn't on scene for that one. So that was the reason I got a hold of Tegan about it and let her cut the amount of the teeth off for the prosthetics that she was using. Because if I was to cut it here, then hand it to you, if when you had it open, you're going to see the cuts. So I wanted her to cut it right at the scene to where it looks like it's in her leg. And I'm going to tell you, Tatum played that off great. Because
Yeah, I
she
mean,
did ask. As I said, I grew up in the woods. I know what a bear trap does to an actual animal. I had a little talk with Tatum about it. I said, it's going to be the worst pain in your life. And she pulled it off. You sent me the clip. I watched it a good 10, 15 times just sitting in the living room. And people, my kids, my wife, everybody come up. It's like, what the hell are you watching? They thought I was watching some sort of snuff film.
yeah, Tatum did such a good job and she did such a good job and she was so loud and her scream was so authentic that we actually had people come out. So we're in the middle of the woods in Tampa, and we're on a camping ground or a RV park that's probably 10, 15 miles of just wilderness. And there were people who came out with guns because they thought we were murdering somebody. And Dylan had to take care of them. Lucky we had like golf carts and we had trucks out there. So we had told them we're shooting a movie out there. but her screams were so authentic that people came out there to make sure that, you know, we weren't killing people out there basically. And Dylan had to handle that, but that was her performance was fantastic.
You actually filmed that the day after I left my scene. I think it was a day or 2 after because when you sent me a picture, I noticed the pressure plate that I had on there was broke. I was like, "Oh, man, they should have just called me and I would have come back out there, hour and 45 minutes. I would have come out there and fixed it, but nobody ever caught it."
Yeah, I think we glued it back on. I think you
Did
had
you?
brought that up, and I think we did glue it back on because when we are going around the Bigfoot Hermit's camp, it's actually on there so you could see it. But, I think, because we were manhandling that bear trap, there's a lot of stuff in there,
Oh, it
and
was durable.
oh, dude, it was fantastic, and I think the more beat up it looked, the better anyways. But I mean, that's just in the so for that scene, it did win an award. We won, the best special effects, for one of the local festivals, but that's just a combination of basically Tatum being fantastic, Tegan being fantastic, and then Howard building an excellent prop, and just the communication all around was just, you know, I couldn't have asked for anything better because that really made the movie. It really kicked us off in the climax, and we've used that bear trap again, in another movie. I think you made a smaller one.
I made a smaller one for you.
Yep. But, I mean, that was the first time we really kinda brought that around, and Howard was on this movie. We had an actor fall out, and, you know, Howard being Howard basically was like, "Hey, if you need anything, I'm 2 hours away," and sure enough, once we got on set, within an hour, we called Howard,
I
and
was
he
on
had it work.
vacation that day. I just went on vacation and y'all called me.
So, I mean, that's the one thing, it's like Howard's always there for us. Why don't you talk a little bit about you and Dylan basically securing a property? Because when we went up to shoot the Bigfoot movie, we had a plot of land that was not ideal, and we had all the actors, we had everything we needed to shoot this movie, and we could have maybe done it on this little plot of land that maybe was an acre at most, but it would have been difficult, and I put Dylan and Howard on it. And why don't you tell about how you guys went around property to property trying to figure out, you know, how we could get something a little bit better?
Oh, I'll become a DBS chauffeur for that day. Yeah, we're having issues with the little property. Uh, I ran into a hornet's nest, a small hornet's nest. A little bit trying to clear out new paths. Uh, let's see. When it finally come down to where we needed a new property, I think you told Dylan, find me someplace. So we started calling places. Uh, I told Dylan, let's just get in the truck. Let's go look. So we started driving around, looking around. We hit the one place. I forget the name of the place, where you actually filmed. Uh, we
It
talked.
wasn't a Yeah, it was an RV park. I can't remember what was the name of it. It had like a weird name because the guy who owned it, it wasn't his name, it was something else. Um,
They had a big foot.
Cody's RV Park. It was Cody's RV Park.
Okay. Yeah, they had a nice big foot out there. Just ideal. And talking to them, they were all about doing it. Yeah, of course, when it comes to locations, people do want to get, hey, it was actually reasonable. Out of everybody else, he was like, yeah, no problem. So, but yeah, that was fun. I've never done scouting until that day,
And
and I
I'll
don't
tell
do.
you, yeah, I'll tell you what, you got a hell of a property because that I think that movie would have been nowhere near as good if we didn't have all those woods, and it
Yeah.
would have made my job a lot harder. So again, Howard coming through in the clutch, wearing multiple hats. So after the Bigfoot thing, I don't know if that's when you started your own business doing props, but it definitely because we had to do the last cabin and you had the dolls. So you had dolls, and I really like the dolls. I can't remember the names of the actual dolls, but I wanted to use them somehow. And in this movie, I think the only other prop I asked you for is a lawnmower because I needed a lawnmower to basically run over an actress's head. I did.
Lawnmower, lawnmower, shears, scissors. multiple different type of scissors where they're leveled out being cut. Um, I think that was also for that one with a lawnmower.
I think that was Devil's Hostage.
Was it?
That was the one yeah, that was the one after that, or not Devil's Hostage, the Dybbuk box one, the Echoes of Evil. We have so many movies that they go through there. For the Last Cabin, if you guys have seen that movie, if not, you should go check it out. All the dolls in the woods are the ones that Howard handmade. Those are all handmade dolls. And my only direction to Howard, yeah, they're still there. Right there was make them look as creepy as possible. And he gave me a box of them, and they had like missing eyes, and they were burnt up, and they did all this crazy stuff because it basically was like homeless people playing with dolls. And then, they had to be creepy, and we put them in the woods, and the shot's fantastic. It's very foreboding. We could have had just a simple woods scene, and instead Howard made these creepy dolls that added look how scary that thing is. That added to production value. And again, we're taking our small budget and making it look Hollywood-esque. And that could have been just a regular scene in the woods, and those dolls made it much creepier. So talk to me about how you made those dolls. Basically how you kind of put them together. Because I really do like the fact that they added just a whole scene. We built a whole scene around those dolls. There's a good 3 or 4 minute scene about them finding these dolls in the woods. And I'm telling you what, if I'm out in the woods and I'm on an Airbnb and I go out there and there's all these creepy dolls out there, I'm gonna be freaked out. And I think it definitely was sold in that movie. One of the reasons that movie's doing so well.
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you about the dolls. I kind of got my kids involved in that one. I gave one to the dog. The one I just showed you, the one we nicknamed Timmy. I let my daughter name that one. She actually did this one. So she had a blast. The rest of them, I was thinking, what kind of demented kid would be out in the woods? What would be done? One of them's half the face is ripped off. A few of them are just burnt, stuffing just hanging out. I didn't want to go into modifying them. I just want them to where it looked like a kid was out there torturing these dolls before they progressed into going into torturing adults without saying anything about the movie. So leave it to my daughter to make the creepiest one. So, and we'll talk about her in a little bit because I have her on my side project. But I don't know, that one was a fun one. That was a stress reliever going out. It really was. Me and the wife was out back.
Did you take like a blowtorch to them?
A couple of them I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a decent little blowtorch, and I just threw them in the fire pit and just let them have it.
Yeah, I mean, they were fantastic. So, did you start Havok Props then? When did you start actually doing this?
When I did the first bear trap with you, I was coming home from work, and that's when I got the idea of, hey, why don't I just start doing props for indie filmmakers? Hollywood has unlimited amount of money. Who does indie filmmakers have? They have their fans, and that's it. They need somebody to take some of the stress off of them. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to help out as many indie companies as I can.
Yeah, and Howard's got a knack for finding things that are very hard to track down. I know in A Cold Grave we needed that old CRT TV, and everything now is like high definition. It's hard to find that stuff. Howard tracked it down. I was talking about Howard about getting like an old like radio thing with like old dials and stuff, and I don't know if we ever used that one or we got brought that up, but he was going to track that down. So just having and finding things that are just a little bit difficult is also another thing that a prop master does. Especially with ours, it's like we want old stuff that's haunted. Howard does a good job of that stuff. But let's talk about basically Echoes of Evil, which is the next one that you did with the scissors and stuff. And we needed the garden shears for a kill. And I just looked at it the other day. We're getting close to having a really nice cut of that movie. Garden shears, fantastic. They turned out absolutely fantastic. But this one is special for Howard because I said, Howard, I need a Dybbuk box. This prop is going to be the prop of the movie. So Shadows of Bigfoot, the Bigfoot trap was one little scene, right? The Dybbuk box is the whole movie. If you don't have a good Dybbuk box, people are going to be like, what the hell, man? Like, this is not going to be realistic. So, for this one, I was worried about the Dybbuk box. I wasn't worried about you, Howard, but I was like, man, we really got to make sure that this is, a serious thing. I know we had a whole bunch of boxes because we had a big one, we had a little one. But again, I told Howard what we needed. We needed something cool. I wanted it to be sealed with wax and twine, and then kind of let him go. And I know he worked with Ashley on this one a little bit too, but the Dybbuk box was the biggest thing in this because I had this movie ready to go. We were starting the process of making it. The script is being fleshed out. If we did not have a good Dybbuk box, the movie would not be good. So talk to us a little bit about being tasked with having a prop that revolves around the whole movie and the pressures of doing that.
It all comes down to communication. So as I've reached out to you, I don't know, an ungodly amount of times, uh, I didn't build the box. I found a place that had multiple boxes. I got a ton of boxes back here, but I wanted it to look like it was at least from the 50s or 60s, somewhere in that manner where it was aged. And I showed you the different boxes and we just went through it. I got with Ashley, which she's the co-owner of Havok. Uh, Me, her, my wife, we all sat down. We played with all these other boxes, just trying to get them to look older. But for some reason, everything kept leaning to that box that you originally picked. So we started doing research, which that's what Ashley mainly does, is more research of the everything, since she lives on the other side. We can't work together, but we can always communicate. She does all the research. She sends me everything. So we just kept hammering at, what was it, 3 or 4 different boxes. And the one that you originally picked out is the one that you literally got because that was the best looking one. We tried to figure out what would be inside a Dybbuk box. Why would these items be in there? How does it keep the entity? The whole 9 yards. So everything about your Dybbuk box is by the book. It's literally the lure of it. So between the wax, the twine, the insides, everything. So I have to give a shout out to Ashley on that one because I just do the physical work. She does the research.
So how did you guys come up with the stuff that you're going to put inside there? Because there was like chicken feet and there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff in that box. Because it was something that I wanted because they have the one character opens up the box and it can't be anything scary. It can't be anything that's too crazy because, they open the box pretty quickly in the movie. But I want talk to me about that because everything you did was by the lore. And this is another thing. If you can have authentic things happen, stuff that pertains to a Dybbuk box, the stuff that would actually be in a Dybbuk box, I think it just shows that you just went a little bit deeper. You put in a little bit more work, just that little extra effort. The devil is in the details to get something that's really, really cool. So talk about how you're tracking down the stuff that was going on or that you put inside that box.
Well, if I remember correctly, we put a replica cat skull or no, it wasn't a cat skull. may have been a possum skull, but I wrapped it up, made it look like it was still had like decayed flesh on it. Um, because whatever goes in there has to be possessed. So obviously that animal won't fit in there. So they got the possession of that animal, cut its head off, put it in the box, sealed it. So I want to say it might have been, it wasn't chicken feet, it might have been turkey feet. And Ashley sent me that. Uh, she she's just as demented as I am when it comes to different things on parts. She loved the waxed turkey feet. So she thought it would look cool. Put that in there with it. And I can't remember what all we put in there. I don't want to give too much of the details out.
It was like some flowers or some stuff in there. I think you put in there.
Yeah,
Um,
flowers.
did you put the inscriptions on the box or did you just carve that out?
I know with one of the boxes, I used a UV light paint and I did a couple takes, couple videos, and it just didn't seem right. So what we did was actually started carving marks on the inside. On the outside, I don't think I marked anything on the outside. I think I let Tegan or Dylan do that one if it went on because you were still up in the air about marking the outside.
I don't think we marked the outside, but I do want to highlight the fact that some things just don't work. And I know we wanted the UV lights. I thought the UV lights was a great way, but just between that and getting it on the camera and just trying to find a scene where they would need the UV lights didn't really work. So Howard, why don't we talk about something where it just didn't work and we had to scrap it?
Ah, well, luckily you didn't have to scrap none of my parts. I don't know. I'm coming up with a blank. What did you have to scrap other than
I think it was just a UV thing. I think it was just something where we were going because it's a teamwork between Howard making something and I have to shoot it. I have to make, basically make it look good. And I like the UV lights. I think eventually we will do something with UV lights. It just wasn't for this movie. And I think we both kind of came up and we're just like, hey, this isn't working.
one of the main problems I had with the UV ink was with it being wood, after it sat there, it'd start bleeding. So you couldn't see the symbols anymore. It just looked like an L that was starting to bleed out. It was going into the grain. It just would not stay. I tried a couple different, I'm looking at them right now. I got UV glue and a UV paint, but it just nothing would take. And I honestly think it would make the camera or the film a whole lot worse if we went with it. So luckily that was scrapped.
Yeah. And we had so much other good stuff in there. Let's talk about the shears and the scissors. So for indie filmmakers, one thing that you can do that really is cool and safe and adds a basically another effect that you can use is taking like scissors, and if you're gonna have a stabbing scene with the scissors, chop off, have one full pair of scissors and one pair with the blade gone, and then you can have that character basically, yeah, you can basically have the character stab the other character safely because there is no blade. It's dulled. Howard will basically make it really like you can't hurt anybody with it. He dulls it down. So we did that with the scissors because we had a scene where the demon stabs herself in the stomach with the scissors. And we had a scene where one of the characters stabs himself in the head with garden shears. Both turned out absolutely fantastic. This is something that we use all the time. We used in our last movie where they basically took a screwdriver and Howard had the screwdriver and removed the actual metal piece, and so it was just the handle, and that looks like really good when you stab someone with it. It works out a million times, as long as you just don't show the cut of it being half chopped off. It works every time. Basically, you just have the actor have the sharp ones, the ones in there. You just need the motion, and you cut on the motion, and you put the half part or the dulled part on them. They kind of hold it like this, so it just be like into their arm, and it works 10 out of 10 times. Put some blood on that, and you can have it actually pull it out. It looks fantastic. So, talk about how you made the scissors for this one, and you also made the shears.
With the shears, I got two of the exact same shears, because you want one to where, as you're filming, you see the metal, you see that it's hard. It's not EVA foam. It's a legit blade. So then you take one apart, trace it out, trace both your blades out. I used EVA foam, carved it down, Dremel tool, put a blade on it, and it's just so much safer, so much easier. Paint it up, make it look like the blade, all the way down to the very last detail. And with the scissors, that was a little more of a nightmare. My grinder actually broke on me in the middle of cutting the scissors. So I was on my last cut, and my blade just went to crap. So I had to finish it. So I'm trying to hacksaw it. Well, trying to hacksaw stainless steel is a nightmare. But after about 45 minutes, it finally went through. But you still want to dull all the points. You don't want the actors to get a deep scratch. You don't want them to get gouged. So it's always safety's number one. Always. Make sure none of the actors are going to get hurt.
So why don't you talk about how you dull these things? Because when he says they're dull, they are dull. And whenever we have a prop that obviously we go over the firearms and we talk about to the actors about the firearms and we don't have any firing pins or any bullets or anything like that on any of our items or any of our firearms, for knives and scissors and stuff like that, I will personally go and check them to make sure I can't cut myself, and I will attempt to cut myself multiple times. Dylan will do the same. We want to again make sure these are as safe as possible, especially if there's any kind of fight scene, involving these things, because you don't want to get anybody hurt. And Howard does a really good job of making them super safe. And even if they're super dull and everything, we will put like a little piece of styrofoam on them. And also, the actors are only possessing these things when we're shooting. Anytime I yell cut, they hand it back to Dylan, they hand it back to myself, and we keep everything locked up. But talk to me a little about safety and making sure these things are as dull as possible, and it's basically impossible to hurt anyone with these things.
Nothing's really impossible, but I try to look at it as, if somebody's coming after me, I don't want to get stabbed. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make this thing safe. I keep a grinder, and I just grind it and grind it and grind it till I'll even test it on myself. If you got a throat cutting scene, first I'll test it on my arm. Okay, it feels good. I'll try it on myself. Great. If it feels like it has a little bit of a edge on it, I'll just keep grinding. I will not stop until I know it's safe, because you're not the only production company that I've done it for. I've done another film where I was the killer and I had to cut somebody's throat, and it scared the hell out of me. So I kept showing her, kept doing it to myself. It's dull. Nothing to worry about. There is absolutely no edge. It's not even rounded. It's just nothing there. And especially if you're trying to cut somebody's neck, keep it off camera. Put your thumb there. As you're going across, use your thumb as a guideline.
Yeah, and a lot of our stuff, especially in throat cutting scenes, we don't really even hit the skin. It's all faked. A lot of our stuff is faked, so really they're not getting, anywhere near some of these scissors or these knives. And I know the shears were completely styrofoam, I believe, so they weren't even like anything
Only the
sharp.
only the handles were real.
Yeah,
Everything else,
only the handles are real. So everything, for us, safety is priority. But if you are an indie filmmaker, that has to be your motto. Because you just don't want anything to go wrong. And in the heat of the moment, when you're asking actors to give a realistic performance, they shouldn't have to be worrying about the safety of your weapons or your stuff on set. It's just going to make them more anxious. You're not going to get a performance from them, and you just don't want to be responsible for that stuff. I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want to put anyone in a dangerous situation. So we are over the top on safety, but that's how I want to operate our sets. And Howard, obviously, he would not give me something that he would not feel comfortable with himself. So it's basically Howard giving me something that he is giving me his blessing. I'm giving the blessing. And then Dylan, also my first AD, is the one who really, really goes hard on this stuff to see if it could hurt anything. And he gives me his blessing too. So you have 3 people really signing off on this. And Howard did such a good job on Echoes of Evil, which is the Dybbuk box movie, that we named the demon after him. The demon in that movie is Kava, and Kava backwards is Havok. So that was our nice little nod to Howard and his ability to basically come through in the clutch for us. And that movie is absolutely fantastic. We are finishing up, or I just saw a really, really nice cut of it last Friday, and it should be out pretty quick. We'll see if we can get in a few festivals. I like to get everyone out there. There's a few local festivals in Orlando that I'd like to have it in there, but we'll see. It's going to be another time crunch, but that movie's fantastic. It really, really is cool. It really looks high budget. I'm really happy with how that came out. And obviously, Howard, you're the man for getting that stuff done. So the next one we did was the Shapeshifter movie. We did Beneath the Skin. Not a lot of props on this one, but obviously I want to get Howard involved. Talk about the firearms. We needed a 9mm. And one thing that Howard had brought up is we do all the bullets and the muzzle flashes with VFX. I don't like to have any blanks on set. They're not needed. The muzzle flashes, if you get somebody that's really, really good, they will be able to do it without a problem. And it'll look really, really good. It's much better for safety and everything around. The problem with that is you don't have the bullet projectile. You don't have the shell casing eject. And that's something that people pick up on. So Howard, how did you solve this problem for us?
a lot of research on trying to find something that is blowback that would still be safe. Of course, the orange tip's gone. Am I even allowed to show this?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. It's just your standard little plastic airsoft gun, painted all over. Gave a little bit of scuff marks. Anywhere a clip would go in. And all you got to do, once you pull the trigger, you start getting shell ejections. So it's a nice little setup. I want to say I found those on Temu, to be honest, and they were dirt cheap. But I think it adds a little bit of extra visual effect, especially as in a real gun. When it's empty, it slides back. So once they fire their last round, I notice in a lot of films that their gun still stays. This one locks back once you fire them all. So I thought that was a neat little thing to put in there.
Yeah, I mean the devil's in the details. It looked a lot better. Honestly, that was my opinion. It kind of sold everything. It made it look like a real firearm. We had the visual effects added in there with the muzzle flashes. That and the combination of the projectiles or the shell casings popping out just really made it look realistic. I don't think I could put side by side a real firearm and what we had in that movie and it would look the same. I don't think people would be able to tell the difference. The one note with that was we shot this in the woods, and those shell casings, once they pop off, they're gone. We could not locate them at all. They are just in that woods, and that was one of the things that if you're going to do this, I hope those things were cheap. I don't remember how we came to the agreement of giving you them again or if we reimbursed you for those, but We had a lot of them, and we just kept losing them left and right.
I think I gave y'all like 24 of them, and I think I got like 3 or 6 back.
Well, we had, like we were coming down the end, and we had, like, maybe 3 of them left, and we just couldn't like, we had to keep doing the shots, and we were just hoping that we weren't losing the 3, but I remember I'd yell, "Cut," and we'd take the big light, and we'd be searching for them. But, like, we were out in North Carolina, on a hill, and they would just disappear. It was the weirdest thing, but they look phenomenal.
Oh, that's great. I'd still love to see the cut, how they work. I know I filmed it a few times before I said, "Hey, I got these. You want to use these?" My cat was chasing all the shell ejections, but I thought it looked great just on regular camera. So I'm dying to see how you got it on film.
Yeah, I'll show you a cut. It turned out really well. I was really happy with those. And those will be the guns we kind of, use moving forward. So that basically takes us to the next movie, which is probably the one you did the most props for us for, which is the one we just wrapped 2 movies ago, which was The Devil's Hostage. Again, we needed a prop that was the biggest prop in the movie, which was a door.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so the door was probably the craziest thing you built for us yet. I'm trying to think of all the stuff. We needed stuff in the house that was weird, so Howard once again went through and got a whole bunch of, basically these like exorcist books. Because basically the premise of this movie is these robbers go into this house, and inside the guy is like there's a demon inside this room of his. So the house needed to have weird stuff. We needed $250,000 of fake cash that Howard had to get. We needed
I think I
2
supplied
doors.
5,000 of that.
Yeah, and we needed so, like, for a lot of these locations, again, we're working on such a minimal budget. It's really hard for us to go and like, if I was on a Hollywood set, I would find a house that had this crazy room where I was like, "This looks very ominous. I could put a demon behind this room." And we spent all our money on that. I just don't have that now. We are working a very limited budget. So I was like, "Howard, what can we make?" And we came up with the idea of having a door because I wanted the actors, the characters to get to this area and know, "Whoa, there's something weird with this." And they originally think there's money behind the door, but for the most part, there's a demon behind the door. Um, and we needed a door, and we needed it to be crafted well. And when I first started looking at it, I was a little bit hesitant because doors are very expensive. Like, doors are, like, thousands of dollars, especially cool-looking doors. So, Howard, how did you build this very ominous door? When I first brought it up, my directions were him was, "I need a door that looks like it would house a demon. It needs to look like a vampire kinda door. It needs to be like this old wooden thing with, like, metal on it, and, like, it just needs to look like this guy purposely has his door," because the whole lore of the story was the door was like, I'm blanking on what the actual word is, but it's the thing that keeps the demon behind it, that keeps it in that room. It can't get out of this door. So it's super important that it look cool because if we had like the Dybbuk box, if we had something that wasn't cool looking, didn't look professional, we would have lost the viewer. So Howard, go into how you kinda made this door, how you brainstormed this door, how much a pain in the ass it was to make this door, but in the end, you came through with it.
This door, I'm going to tell you, or should I say doors? I had to do 2. It sucked. It sucked so bad. I stressed out, and because you're going to be filming in another state. So I had to get these 2 built here so that way you can carry it there. So starting from the beginning, I get asked, "Okay, hey, I need a door," as you were just saying. I'm like, "All right, no problem." And I'm thinking, well, what kind of door? Left swing, right swing, in swing, out swing. Hold on. Do you need a 30 by 80? Do you need a 42 by whatever? All these questions started coming to me, and I started blowing you up. You're like, "Oh, get a hold of Dylan. Dylan knows." I get a hold of Dylan. Dylan don't know. I'm like, son of a, yeah. Okay, so 2 weeks of stressing out. Luckily, you gave me enough time. You gave me, I think, a month and a half to get all this ready. So 2 weeks, pure stressing out, trying to design something, trying to figure out where to, what kind of door am I needing? Then Dylan finally reached out. I need a 30 by 80, if that makes sense. I'm like, all right, left swing, right swing. He goes, I don't know. Well, I'm at work. I have another job during the day. So I'm talking to the maintenance guy there. I was like, hey, I'm kind of looking for some doors. You don't have any old doors, do you? He's like, follow me. So he takes me to this room and it's slap full of doors. I'm like, bro, really? He goes, pick all you want. So I took a left in swing and a right in swing. They were exact measurements that Dylan told me about. Loaded them up, brought them home, started sanding them down over the weekend, getting everything set up. And as I'm staining these things, I'm like, how am I going to do this? These are hollow core. So it's just paint after paint after paint, just trying to get this thing to look good. Tried a couple different ways of popping the lines on there to get it to where it looked like authentic wood, where it had ridges. Well, that didn't turn out too well because the paint I was using was drying too fast. It's like, all right, so plan B. Started getting my wife involved. I'm already stressed out. Now the wife's stressed out because I'm stressed out. But we finally got it. We were actually, me and the wife were actually going through one of the hobby shops and we found all these beads. I was like, babe, wouldn't it be cool to have an archway? And since it's holding back a demon, have a crucifix in the middle of it. So we're painting all these beads. We cut them all out, painted every single one, not just a single layer, but we want it to look like a rusty metal. So hit them with silver, hit them with brown, a little bit of silver, a little bit of brown, just going back and forth until it got to a rustic look. And I didn't want to part with doors once they got done. I started taking selfies in front of the doors. I had them hung up on my office door. My kid, my youngest kid, Dad, you need to remove that door. That door's giving me the creeps. I want it out of here. I'm like, hell no, that's staying. So, but yeah, that was a very chaotic ordeal. Communication is key. And I was getting communication. It's just Dylan trying to get the guy to give him the information to give me the information. So it was just chaotic.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when, because Howard, and that's one thing that Howard's really good at is whether it's through Discord, or he'll text message me on things, and I'm always kept in the loop, especially when decisions are being made that we can't go back from. And I remember him sending me so they have like nails that you got to make the crucifix in the archway on the door, and I didn't know if they look good. I just didn't know because it's hard to see from pictures. And I said to Howard, he's like, "Should I keep going?" I'm like, "Make a call here because you got to just let me know if it makes cool, if it looks cool." And he goes, "Yeah, it looks really cool." And when I saw them for the first time, I was like, "Well, this looks incredible." And honestly, there's probably something better. And this is why I give both Tegan and Howard a lot of freedom because multiple times they have come up with something that is better than what I had in my head. And in my head with the door, it looked antique, it looked cool, but what they gave me was something unique and it just blew my expectations out of the water. That door could be on a Hollywood set easily, and we have it on our small indie budget production, and that's absolutely fantastic. It just goes back to, basically what I said before. We're trying to cheat our $25,000 budgets to $1 million bucks that door really brought it together, brought that whole movie together. It worked out absolutely fantastic. And that was, I mean, you had a lot of responsibility with this movie, and it
Yeah.
turned out. I remember I sent you the picture of like the actors looking at it for the first time, which will probably be the thumbnail of this YouTube video. And all the reactions were, "This is amazing." And it was just, we have so many shots with that door that really kind of bring the movie together. It really was cool to see it come together. So let's just kind of wrap up here. Um, you've worked with a couple other indie productions. You've worked with ourselves. You as a prop master, what do you want to see from a director? What do you not want to see from a director? What's the best way to work with you?
I'm all about communication. As long as you're communicating with me, I'll work with you all day long. I've worked with, I'm not saying names, I'm not going to say what company they're from. One company reached out and he is literally blacklisted from having. He had me scouting. He had me trying to get antique cars. He had me doing all kinds of things. As soon as I started getting things lined up and I told him, hey, these people want this much. He's like, no, I'm not paying them. I said, well, okay, well, here's my bill. Blocked. He blocked me from there. No money, no nothing. He just walked away from it all. So if you don't have communication, I don't want nothing to do with you. But
Talk keep going, sorry.
but when, like you, we talk. I don't interrupt you when you're editing or anything like that. But while we are in pre-production, I will contact you. What, once, twice a day? Hey, here's an idea. How about this? And it's either a yes or a no. And I'm good with a no. Then I'll go right back to the drawing board. As long as we communicate, I'm happy. I'm not looking to get rich off of this. I'm not looking to get famous off of this. I'm looking to help you guys. I want to see your films come to life and look good. So I'm happy with just communicate.
Talk to me a little bit about, because I give you a lot of freedom. I try and give you my general idea of what I want, but a lot of the times I don't really know what I want. I'll leave it up to you and I'll leave it up to Tegan. Um, Tell me your experiences working with that. Does that ever frustrate you if I don't have a clear vision? And have you ever worked with somebody who has something very, very specific and you're just like, I wish I had more freedom in this? Or hey man, like your thing, whatever you're trying to build is not possible.
Yes, I've had one person reach out to me and I'm the only builder. There's just me, my wife, and Ashley. Ashley lives in another state. So my wife handles the finance part of everything because I use my money to do whatever I got to do. But it can get a little hectic.
You worked with a director who wanted something very specific done, and you're like, man, I wish I had, more freedom to do this. Or, hey man, like what you're trying to make is just not possible for the budget or just not possible in general.
Okay. Well, one person did reach out. They wanted an animatronic puppet. This particular puppet was going to be similar to Chucky, but as a teddy bear. He needed it to fully move, needed full expressions. And I asked him, okay, what kind of budget do you have? And he told me, what was it, like 5K. I had to turn it down. There's absolutely no way I can do that for 5K. I have friends that do other things. I maybe they can help you. I cannot do it. I am not an animatronic person other than what I'm trying to work on now. But I do get calls all the time with people trying to get more than what they can pay for because I'm putting my money forward first to build what needs to be built. Then I send the bill on to that person. Well, I know I can't do an animatronic for $5,000. So it's a little stressful when they do call and ask for something that is out of my means. Some things I can't do.
What about besides myself, other people who've contacted you who don't have a clear vision of what they want? How do you kind of get them to the point where you can work with something, as opposed to, being like, "I don't know what this person wants."
I recently just ran across that. And luckily, your SFX artist is working on that film. I had to go through her to get any type of answers. And I had it all in writing, what he was wanting, gave him everything he was wanting, send him pictures, then he would change his mind. So back to the drawing board. I think I built this thing 3 times before I got it to where he wanted it. So it it's a little annoying and it'll break you. If you do not have the right state of mind, it'll break you. You'll want to walk away from it. But because it was your SFX artist, I was doing her a favor. So I kept in communication with her. We worked it all out. Project's done. Well, my part's done. It's sent off to him. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, so I think the big learning lesson here is that try and get your vision as clear as possible before you give it to other people. This goes for special effects and for props. When I say I don't have an idea of what I really want, it's trusting Howard to make something really cool in our budget. That is because I'm always saying, "Hey, Howard, this is what we have allocated for props for this movie. Um, what can you do with this?" For the Dybbuk box, that's a great example. We had a budget for it. I knew I wanted a Dybbuk box. He came up with a whole bunch of images, and we kind of went through it, pictures and what we wanted to try and do with that. Same thing with the door. I knew what I wanted as a rough concept, and we kind of refined it before he put a lot of work into it. And that was communication all the way through. When we start pre-production, I always tell the actors I'm 24/7. I don't care if you're texting me at 2 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. As long as you're texting me, we're kind of going there because nothing would be worse than me and Howard being on a different page, and then he has to basically build something and then re-scrap it and redo it again, and then I get charged for that, and he wastes his time, and we're both frustrated. So the more aligned on your vision you could possibly be, but also be open to interpretation. Howard knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time. If you're working with another prop master, they're probably the same. Give them just a little bit of flexibility. Give them a little bit of creativity, because sometimes they will. In the case of the door and the Dybbuk box, they created something that was better than what I had in my head. So let's wrap it up, Howard, with your short that you're a filmmaker, because it brings me great joy to see you venture into filmmaking. The script, the idea that you sent me is absolutely fantastic. The wings that retract are absolutely incredible. And this is something where Howard's going to make this short. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. It's going to a whole bunch of awards. And I'm probably going to end up using those wings that he's going to rent to me at some point because they're just that badass.
Oh yeah. Now it's I'm still in the second phase. Phase one passed. I got it to actually spread out and retract. It's all remote controlled, but I'm doing my little version of Lilith. Everybody knows her as a demon. She walked away from Eden. She's the mother of demons, but there's also another lore about her being the protector of women. So I'm not going into too much details, but I've already talked to one actress, and as long as the time frame's right, she wants to play Lilith. And you're going to be on board to help me film, and Tegan wants to be a part of it. I'm open to that. And my daughter, which dabbles with the SFX. So my daughter's going to do it. I was going to see if Tegan can guide her in the right direction. So, because there's one scene that's going to be a little harder on that part. And I would like to see your SFX artist guide my daughter in the right direction. So you get a bigger film coming up. My daughter can be there right next to you, right next to her, helping her. So you know several SFX artists. Here's one more to the family.
Well, we're always looking for talented people. I'm looking forward to shooting that. The script's fantastic. I'm excited to do that. I think it's really cool. It's really cool that you're making your own stuff too. I think that's really, really awesome. So this is pretty much it. We're gonna wrap it up here. Howard, if he lets me put his link to his contact information in the YouTube video, I know that he is super busy and he takes on clients if they're a good fit for him and the client. He doesn't take on anybody. He's actually probably rejects more people than he accepts. So it just depends on Howard's workload. If he allows me to put that link in there, if not, you can. I believe Howard Havok. Where can we basically see your stuff or keep up with you? If you aren't taking on new clients, or if you want to take up more clients, what's your contact information that people could reach out if they're indie filmmakers?
Yeah, if you want to put it in the YouTube, that'd be great. You can find Havok on Instagram. I don't think I did one with Facebook, but I usually post on my personal one anyways. So if you just want to throw Havok's IG page and my personal page on there, that'd be great. I can't remember what the title is. Havok Indie Props or Havok Dark Creations. I forget which one it is.
No, I mean, we definitely will. And again, Howard's also really good at making little gift boxes and keychains and candles and stuff that we use as giveaway stuff that we use as marketing materials that work very, very, very well. So if you don't have the budget for some props, maybe we can contact you to make some small little trinkets and stuff. We send this stuff to distribution all the time, and they love it. We give it to our fans all the time. Any kind of horror convention or festivals we go to, we take this stuff. But I hope this was valuable to you guys. Honestly, props is the best way to take your budget from 25K, make your movie look like $1,000,000. The devil is in the details, and Howard specializes in the details. If you don't have a Howard Hawkins, I say try and find one. He's going to be hard. He's a one-of-a-kind guy, but you need to really invest in props. Nothing takes you out of the moment of an indie film. I see it all the time with fake wardrobes, fake cop badges, really fake looking knives and guns. You're just not going to have a good time with that. People are going to turn your movie off right away. Invest a little bit of money and find yourself a really good prop master. And I guarantee you, your film will do much better. It'll look much better. Distribution will like it because it will look higher budget. So any last words, Howard, that you want to say before we sign off?
Any last words? No, I don't want it to end. I want this to keep going. I enjoy this.
I tell you, Howard, this is a great episode. I've enjoyed it too. I looked at the clock now. We're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's crazy how fast time flew by. So we'll have you on again because obviously we're going to be working on a lot more projects. We have a big EMP post-apocalyptic movie coming up in the fall that we're going to need a lot of props for. So keep in touch. We will have Howard on again once we probably wrap that movie. Other than that, guys, thank you. check out The Last Cabin. Check out all our stuff. A lot of our movies, especially our older ones, are free on YouTube right now. Go check those out. You can see all the bad props that we used, all the terrible stuff, the plastic guns, the BB guns, the stuff that just looked really, really bad before we met Howard, and the step up that we have now. We wouldn't have the distribution opportunities. The Last Cabin would not be the #1 found footage in the whole world right now for the last 4 months. It's got a great shot at being the top grossing found footage movie this year. And that all comes from those awesome props that Howard did. So please, please, please heed my advice and just invest in props. The devil's in the details. Until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later. See ya.